There. Poking in. Great interest.
Hi.
Of course.
Hi, Derry. How are you?
I knew you would make some kind of entrance. There was no doubt about that. Hi, Bala. How
Yeah,
are you?
I am not a Trump supporter. I wear my mask.
Well, let's get that out of the way right out of the gate. Let's just establish our political position before we start anything else there. I was actually a little concerned that you would be able to get in without any interruption. I see that it looks like it's raining and storms there.
Yeah, it was from this morning. From 5 o'clock, it's been raining nonstop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. How are you?
I am very good, and you're looking cool.
Yeah, well, it's we shifted things around this time. I'm in a little different position, so yeah, things are looking good here. It's tough to be constantly quarantined, but it's not bad. I wish I was there. We'd be filming chimps instead of stuck in this studio the whole time. So let's jump right in. Why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah, go for a bit. You were cutting out just a moment there, so hopefully we.
Hi. I'm Bala Amarasekaran, the founder and program director of Tacugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary in Sierra Leone, West Africa.
Bala and I have known each other for a few years now, and I spent a couple of amazing weeks with Bala and his team at Tacugama a few years ago, filming not only chimpanzees, but we filmed a whole range of other things, some of your conservation projects, which we'll get into in a minute, as well as at that point there was a huge, speaking of rain, there was a huge landslide that had occurred not far from where the sanctuary is, and you wanted me to take a look at that and talk to some of the people who had been traumatized by that landslide, and over 1,000 people, if I recall right, had died in that landslide. It was pretty traumatic, and that was coming on the heels of Ebola in Sierra Leone. So it's you had quite a series of dramatic events, and now you have COVID there.
It is true. Yeah, sometimes I mean, you are probably known for the wrong reasons, and we went through our share of calamities and problems, and but we have somehow bounced back and continue to do our work. That's the main thing. So you don't too much focus on all the problems we had. It's more about how we manage to come out of the problems and continue with what we do.
Yeah, well, let's talk about what you do. I mean, one of the most amazing things in the last couple of years is you've managed to get the chimpanzee to be the national animal of Sierra Leone, and that's the first time that a great ape has been named the national animal of any country. That was pretty remarkable feat. Let's talk about how you managed to pull that off.
I mean, this has been on the cards for a long time. We've been thinking about it, but we wanted the right moment for this to happen. And I think it all happened in a way that we've been inviting the famous Dr. Jane Goodall to come and visit us for a long time. But you know how her schedule is. So it's so difficult to get her, get the approval from the Institute and get her to come down to Sierra Leone. And it happened last year. And for us, it was like, what can we do with that? How do we celebrate? Because my relationship with Jane goes almost like 30 years since we met the first time. So at that time, there was no sanctuary. She came to visit us as an ambassador during one of our Wildlife Week celebrations. And that's how we got connected. We spoke about whether Jane could help us to another place, another sanctuary, because I was not ready to set up a sanctuary at that time. But then by the time Jane was trying to help me to get to another sanctuary, to get the chimps to another sanctuary, I think with the interaction with her, I think she planted this seed in me that probably there should be more people like Jane trying to help the chimpanzees. So since he left, that is how we started thinking about building a sanctuary. And that is how the chimps that were supposed to go to another sanctuary never went. They never left the shores of Sierra Leone. They stayed on, and we built the sanctuary. So Jane coming back after 30 years, we wanted to give her a big present. I mean, this is a lady who dines with head of states and kings and queens. And what can this poor Bala can give her? So we thought, look, you know what? We're going to give her something that she's never got anywhere. So we worked with the government, we worked with the international partners. I had a wonderful team at Tacugama. Some of them, you know, like Aram and Andrea and all these guys. So we all got together and I said, look, we got to give her this big person. We need to surprise her with something very unique, something important. And that's what we did with the chimp being the national animal. So we managed to sell it to the government and rallied all the support. We pushed the right buttons and we got the chimp declared as the national animal. And that was given during Jane's visit. This was in February 2019.
Yeah, that, I mean, and I guess speaking today, I mean, it comes on kind of an interesting heels. Today is World Chimpanzee Day, July 14th. And so, and it's set aside as World Chimpanzee Day because celebrating, actually today, I think is her 60th anniversary of stepping ashore at Gombe. Yeah. So it's interesting that 30 years after that, she would be instrumental in helping you, get Tacugama all structured. But speaking of it being the national animal, what are the main issues facing chimpanzees in Sierra Leone?
I think it's no different from every country. I mean, wherever the chimpanzee ranges, we are all facing the same problems. The habitat destruction, probably the most important thing. Then, of course, the wildlife trade, the pet trade, the wildlife trafficking, the bushmeat. So, I mean, it's similar everywhere, although maybe it may differ from country to country in terms of which one is leading. In our case, it's the same thing. We had the same problems like any other country. So we needed to do something because the law enforcement alone, you can hear the chimps.
Speaking of chimpanzees, yeah. Good timing. Is that a real chimpanzee, or do you have a tape running?
It is. It is. It is. You know, the office is built on top of the dens, so you cannot avoid it. So you got to go with it. Mm-hmm. So for us, most of the countries, we're all trying to look at the law enforcement side, but we all know that weak governance, weak laws, many other things that don't really help us with how we could really go about doing this business, trying to protect the chimpanzees. So the only thing you're left with is it's got to run parallel with something else. And for us, this something else is actually declaring the chimp as the national animal. We really need to touch the sentiments of the people. We need to see it's not about only the fear of don't do this and don't do that. But we want Sierra Leoneans to take pride in protecting something that is theirs, and that is the national animal.
Have you seen in the last year since it's become the national animal, are you starting to see a difference in people's attitudes or their thinking about the chimpanzee?
I think, yes, in some quarters, yes, but we need to do a lot more. When it comes to finding the resources to do all the publicity and sensitization, it takes a long time. This is one of the reasons probably people don't know that we are signing an MOU with GLOBIO, your institution, because we need to get to this level. Because about the national animal and what we are doing and people understanding the reason to protect the national animal is mainly in the major towns, in the capital, in the urban areas, yes. But taking this message right across the whole of the country, I think that needs resources and we need to do more work on that. Then with that, probably we'll see. But definitely the story is sinking in. We are doing a lot of publicity. We are doing a lot of advocacy along those lines. So we hope it'll take a while.
Let's get back. Excuse me. We're losing you just a little bit there. You're freezing up. So I think we lost the last little bit that you were talking about there. But yeah, I understand it. And actually that was one of the questions that I was looking forward to talking to you about today, was the fact that when I was there before, there was a rescue that went on, a little chimp named Woron. And
he's thriving, and he's a very troublesome chimp, actually.
So good. He's doing well, huh?
Yeah, before he met you, that's why.
Yeah, what is he about? He must be 4 or 5 years old by now.
Yeah, he's like 5 years old now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yes.
in the YouTube version of this that we'll produce right after this, we'll have some imagery of Warren going up in there for anybody who wants to
Mhm,
see little
mhm.
Warren. But the thing that was interesting, I think, about
It's okay. He
Warren
can still go
and
to that
his
place.
rescue was I had wanted to go out during the rescue and do some filming, and you said, that was something that you were you weren't real keen on that idea, not because of getting the film of Warren, but you were very sensitive to the presence in villages of when your rescue teams go in,
Seems quite
that
calm,
you
though.
don't
I mean,
create a real militaristic or
Mm.
very police sort of heavy approach for confiscating a
No, because,
chimpanzee, which which
yeah,
is very different
very true,
than most
very true.
other
Because for me, you know, you know that I didn't start this off as a conservationist. I actually started as a simple human being trying to rescue a chimp.
good boy, okay? All right? No more ropes for you, okay? You see? It's out. The rope is out. No more chains.
Do you eat some fruit for him? Oranges and
Okay, that's fine. Careful, watch his hand when you're closing.
And it all started with, I actually bought this chimp for $20. You know that. I mean, the rest is history. But so if I could do that at that time, I mean, in a landscape like Sierra Leone with so much of illiteracy, and you got people living in the villages, the message hasn't got there to say that the chimpanzee is your national animal, it's illegal to kill them or capture them or to eat them or whatever. So you need to look at it first of all in terms of how much of information these people have. Maybe they're ignorant, they are punishing the chimp or ill-treating the chimp. It's not like that. Sometimes they think they're doing a favor by looking after this chimp because a hunter killed the mother and they brought the chimp home and they don't know the rest of the story. They try to take care of the chimp. So you got to show some empathy towards even the person who's holding the chimp. So the most important thing is trying to talk to them and make them understand why you are confiscating this chimp from them. And for me, confiscation is not the word I want to be proud of. I would rather call it a rescue, and it is a rescue that is done in a way the other party also understands why they are giving up this chimp. So we have really focused on that over the years. So every time we confiscate a chimp or rescue a chimp, we also try to extend the arm of friendship. We try to ask the people, I want you to understand. We want you to be our ambassador. We want you to carry this message back to your village to say, this is not a bad thing. This is something you should not keep. And you find different ways to send that message across to the people. So flexing our muscles and to show that we are doing a big thing. I mean, it's very short-lived. I think what is important is to create that connection between the people. I think people need to understand that why we have come to rescue this chimp and why it is wrong for them to keep the chimp. I think we focus more on that.
Well, that gets to the heart of, as you mentioned earlier, the MOU, the agreement that GLOBIO and Tacugama are now in the process of building. And a big part of that is awareness and creating awareness through films, through our videos, through things like this Instagram Live, and finding ways to reach out to people and just make them aware of the fact. I mean, a lot of people don't even know where Sierra Leone is on a map, and they don't even know that chimpanzees go that far west in Africa. You know, talking about Jane Goodall a minute ago. I mean, that's sort of that Central Africa spot is where people often think of where gorillas, chimpanzees, and others are. But the fact is that chimpanzees range all the way across equatorial Africa all the way to Sierra Leone and the Ivory Coast. So, in fact, I think it was a survey that you had done through Tacugama a couple of years ago. You found that Sierra Leone has one of the highest populations of chimpanzees anywhere in the world.
You're talking
That
about
was
the
part of your
subspecies
conservation outreach.
Yeah. I mean, you're referring to chimpanzee. And the Western chimpanzee, according to the IUCN, very recently, about 2 years back, they declared the Western chimpanzee in the second or third largest population in West Africa. And it's a very
So that, I mean, that one of the things that I wanted to chat about with you was that conservation effort, and you were alluding to it just now when you broke up. So in terms of conservation, how do you see Tacugama's role overall in the country, and with what you're doing with conservation? Because I know one of the things that you and I discussed when I was there last time was the fact that you really didn't see Tacugama's main role as a sanctuary. While you've taken care of 80-some chimps, you really, I think, saw Tacugama's driving role was a conservation organization. So maybe we can chat about that for a little bit. And we're losing him again. I am really sorry about that. We can't control the weather, obviously. And yeah, there we've lost his connection. We'll see if we can get him back. Hang on one second, and we'll get him back up here, and we'll talk about what Tacugama is doing in terms of conservation. Where they're positioned, for those of you who have never been to Tacugama, they're positioned up into the edge of the forest above Freetown, which is the capital of Sierra Leone. And in that position, they often have trouble not only with the hills around them and an internet connection, but and then when they have huge rainstorms like they're having right now, it can be problematic to get a good signal to there. Even for us, normally when we're trying to have Zoom calls and things with them to work on some of the outreach projects and some of the other things we're doing, we will often it will take a few hours to get through a 20-minute phone call because we're constantly breaking up and have to restart. So let's give it a second and see if we can get Bala back. Hang on one second. I will jump in and see if we can get them back up on yeah, we're waiting for them to try to log back on, so we'll give them a few more minutes and see if we can get that to work. If any of you have questions, you go ahead and fire those up, and we'll try to get some of those answered here in the next few minutes. And if those of you who are maybe just coming to Instagram, our feed for the first time, you might want to check out some of the things that we're talking about are actually some pieces that we've put up on our YouTube channel at Apes Like Us, where we did a piece on their conservation projects that's up there. We did another piece about rescuing one of the tiny chimps. One of the questions is, what are one of my favorite memories from Tacugama when I was there? I guess I have a couple of them. One is this emergency rescue that we did of Sonia, and that's one of the pieces we have up on the YouTube Apes Like Us channel. It was incredible to watch. At that time, there was a brand new vet, Andrea, who had just come from Colombia, and I think she'd been working for about a month. And so she was just getting her feet wet in terms of both living in Sierra Leone with the rains and working with chimps. And then there was this emergency where during a huge lightning storm one morning, one of the chimps in the enclosure, one of the mothers had lost control.
Tell me what you need.
We think, and the baby had fallen, had a head injury, and so the keepers determined that we needed to try to rescue the baby out of the enclosure, and so we did. And Andrea took the baby, little Sonia, and we found out that there was possibly some brain damage. So she spent about a month, I guess, in recovering, and she finally went back with her mom after that month, and she's now doing okay. But just to see the whole team go into sort of emergency mode, both the keepers and staff, and this young vet Andrea, who was remarkable in doing her job. And then that little chimp was turned over to a woman named Mama Po. Mama Po has raised over half of the chimpanzees, the 80-some chimpanzees that are at Tacugama. Mama Po has raised those chimps to get them up to that kind of 2-year-old age, where then they join the rest of the little ones and into a nursery group, and they can pretty much, take care of themselves at that point. Obviously, they get supplementary feeding and things from the caretakers, but they don't need that 24-hour care that Mama Po gives them. So she's sort of the grandmother of all the chimps, and so that's one of my other favorite memories, is just working with Mama Po, and I can't wait to get back. We hope to do an entire piece about her and the work that she's done over the last 20 years or so that she's been there at Tacugama. The unique thing about, even though it's a challenge, as Bala was saying earlier when we had him on, their offices are located at the top of some of the enclosures. So some of the night enclosures for the chimps are here, and then the offices are right above them, perched up on a hillside just out of Freetown. And Bala actually located the sanctuary there on purpose, because it's at the entrance to what is now a national park, and the forest floods out behind the area where the chimps are kept in the sanctuary. And there actually are, I think, about 35 to 40, if we get Bala back on, we'll confirm that, but I think there are about 35 to 40 wild chimps in the park as well. And this area then floods out to, I think it's kind of the north of the peninsula there. And then in the front of the area of the national park actually becomes the capital of Freetown. And he put the sanctuary there on purpose so that it would have a connection to the people of Freetown. There's about 1 million to 1.5 million people in Freetown. So he put them there. He put the sanctuary there so it'd have close proximity, so he could do a lot of the awareness that we've been talking about for the people in town. So let's give it one more try. There we go. Good. We got your back. Awesome.
Yeah, we got out of the office to see if we get a better connection.
Yeah, I was just explaining where the office was, and sometimes it's a challenging connection there. So you look. Oh, you're completely outside.
Yeah, because the connection, we thought maybe got a little bit better outside.
Yeah, you seem to be much better even right now. So I was just explaining. You and I had been talking about conservation and conservation awareness. And I was just explaining that where the sanctuary is located, with the national park behind it, and its proximity to Freetown. So, and part of your mission there was to make people aware of the park, make people aware of the sanctuary by not hiding it deep in the park.
Yeah, I mean, one of the major roles Tacugama plays, because we are so close to Freetown, is also protecting the national park and also some of its major catchment, because the capital city receives all the water from these hills, and Tacugama is situated within these hills. So it's one of our main mission, is also, as much as we are protecting the chimpanzees, we are also protecting the catchment. And so Tacugama is probably better known to educated people as is one of these places that is helping the government to protect the catchment, and maybe we are more recognized that way rather than even protecting chimpanzees. So we need to focus on these things. It's not necessarily, I mean, we want to sell the story to people that because of chimps we are here, but the mission we are doing is not only protecting chimps, we are doing a lot more. That is in terms of protecting the water catchments that gives water to the capital city.
Right, and how many people? It's about 1.5 million in the city. Million.
That's right. Yeah, 1.5 million people, and out of that, probably about 25 to 30% of the population on the western rural area, they get the money from, from the water from the forest, the catchments that are very close to Tacugama.
So that catchment really is life and death for many of those people in terms of having a a stable water supply.
Yes, the most important thing is just protecting the chimpanzees alone as a species is not going to do the thing for us. I think we need to sell the story in a different way. We need to talk to the government and the people to understand that through the chimpanzees, we are also making a difference for people, for humans. And this is exactly what we do with all our conservation projects. At the moment, we work with 70 plus communities across Sierra Leone. And what we try to do is it's not just about preaching to the people about protecting chimpanzees, it's about coexistence. It's a matter of that constant messaging. People to understand that Tacugama is there not only to protect chimpanzees, it's also to protect the communities and make their lives better. This is why all the 70 communities, we put lots of emphasis, we put our time and resources to provide livelihood activities. And of course, we barter, we demand to say that all this is coming simply because you have chimpanzees in your forest. And that is the same connection we keep doing with people. And I must boast about it in a way. We are happy, at least wherever we are working, it's working. But the problem is, we would like to be everywhere. For that, it all comes to resources that we don't have. So, sometimes...
Speaking of resources and communities, how much support, one of the questions that we got from somebody jumping on was, how much support in terms of donations and other things do you get from the people of Freetown? I mean, are they aware of your need, and how much are they, from a domestic standpoint, are they jumping in and supporting what you're doing?
Yeah, sadly, it's very difficult to attract money for conservation from within the country because of lots of human problems, lots of humanitarian need, and the government is focusing a lot in terms of, making it better for the people. And for conservation, very little money is spent on conservation. So it's left to individuals like us. We have to fight for it. We have to fight for it. So, and most of our donations or grants come from outside Sierra Leone, mainly, or sometimes from foreign missions that are based here, like UNDP, it can be Irish Aid, it can be German Embassy or American Embassy. These are people who are based here. They sometimes help. You are calling from America, and in America also we have some very strong partnerships made. We have the Pan-African Sanctuary Alliance. We got the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Recently, they funded one of our major programs. We are trying to protect one of the national parks in the north of the country. It's called Loma Mountain National Park. That has probably, it has about 1,500 chimpanzees there, wild chimpanzees, and possibly the highest concentration anywhere in Africa in terms of the numbers. So we are like piecemeals here and there. Whenever we are able to find some money, we are able to do some targeted conservation. But we haven't found the resources to do a countrywide conservation program. It is, again, comes down to lack of the right resources. And as you know, we are a sanctuary, and we got to do this as an extra something, because we understand that we'll be wasting our time sitting ducks at the sanctuary and keep receiving orphans. Our work should be really, really focusing on protecting the wild chimpanzees before they get to the sanctuary.
Right. I think that's been an interesting shift in in the view of sanctuaries and conservation over the last, especially the last decade or so. I think there's been a greater awareness by that. I think there was a hope that the flood of chimpanzees and other apes coming into sanctuaries would diminish, but that doesn't seem to be happening as quickly as everybody was hoping. And I think there's now, people are starting to see, like yourself, that there's a greater need for this conservation awareness out in the countryside, and making sure that the chimps, in this case, the chimps stay where they are. They don't end up as orphans being rescued by teams like yours at Tacugama. In terms of people helping, I mean, obviously donations are important, especially during this time. I mean, I'm sure you guys are strapped with COVID hitting you, and maybe we can chat about that for just a minute. The other thing I was wondering is, when I know that volunteers form a strong part of what you guys do there. And do you have any sense about when you might be able to get volunteers back? Is there any kind of clarity with when people will be able to visit Sierra Leone again?
I mean, unfortunately, I mean, none of us know the exact effect on COVID on chimpanzees and primates. So we haven't got enough information on that. So at the moment, what is left with us is to play it safe. I think we got to be taking all the preventive measures. That's what we are doing at the moment. So under these circumstances, the best practice is to stop all new people coming into the sanctuary. So we are under total lockdown since March 15th. Even our staff members are not allowed to commute, even going to see their families. So it's been, we've taken such stringent, very strict measures to make sure the sanctuary, does not come down with this problem. So at this moment, we are not in a position to accept any volunteers. We are looking at the situation. I think Sierra Leone is probably a lot better than many other countries, like what you're experiencing in America. So there is a possible we might relax some of the rules, but definitely we are not looking forward to receive any volunteers till October or maybe even November. I would say even end of the year. So that's the situation at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. So we will, we will again post links to your website and things. So when people do, when people do want to volunteer, at least they can get a name on a list, I suppose. And when things do start to open up, you guys can reach back out to them. We'll do the same with this.
Yeah, we're already doing that. We are already doing that. We still have tons of people asking to come and volunteer, and that's what we are telling them. Just we are listing them down, and we are trying to tell them what they could be doing. And even some of them, we are even asking them to start helping Tacugama in some way. If they really have the will to help, they could even start from where they are. So this is something we'll ask volunteers, that you want to volunteer at Tacugama, probably this is a good time to start. You can help us with some fundraising or come up with some very good ideas. We build a relationship, and you get to come here to really see how we can all work together, because these are real difficult times, and we need everyone's help. It's a miracle that we have come through 5 months with the help of friends of Tacugama and institutions that have come to help, and I think we need more of that. So volunteering can actually start from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I hate to sound like a broken record, but especially during times like this when you're shut down and you have to be closed, raising funds is maybe the most critical thing to keep you guys going. I mean, I'm sure, like many places, the cost of things just like surgical masks has gone up in price because now everybody's trying to get their hands on them. So the price of just basic medical supplies and things for you to do your work has also gone up. I'm hearing from other places that the price of food in the marketplace is going up. So all of those things are putting a lot more pressure on you financially than they were before.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, the inflation is running over 20% now with the current climate. And that's going to be, that is something really hitting us hard. And the other problem is that Tacugama is a kind of a different model. We wanted to wean ourselves from this donor syndrome. We don't want really begging people all the time. So Tacugama in the last 7-8 years, I think we worked on different initiatives, and we have increased our capacity to generate our own income. So before COVID struck, we were actually making something like 60-65% of our running costs by ourselves. So this is the problem. Shutting down the sanctuary, now we are paying the price because we haven't really gone after people. We have tried to see how we can generate our income through our own initiatives. So that has come back to hit us now. So at the moment, we have to reestablish a lot of connections that we had like 20 years ago because we weaned ourselves. Now it's like going back. And for me, a sense of begging. And this is something we want to come out of it because we want to really stand on our own legs.
Right. Well, it's let's take it away from begging for a little bit and let's helping in a time of need, because I think you guys certainly are doing a remarkable job there. And one of the things that's most impressive is the conservation work. I know that's, for a lot of people, that's work that isn't, it doesn't have the same sort of immediate appeal as seeing a baby orphan being rescued, but in the long run, this conservation effort that you're doing is going to pay huge dividends at cutting the number of chimps that are poached and the number of chimps that are, illegally moved into the pet trade and, whatever else. So I really applaud all of the work that you're doing in conservation. And we're going to try to do, with what we do here at GLOBIO and through Apes Like Us, we're going to try to make, a lot more, draw a lot more attention to your conservation work and try to create pieces that generate a lot more awareness about actually what you're doing in the field to change the narrative there around chimps and poaching.
Yeah, really, that is why we really wanted to partner with you, because we also kind of looked at you as someone who could really take us to another level. And that's what we thought this collaboration could really, really help us. And it is very important for me. Every time a chimp gets rescued and come to Tacugama, I'm not really concentrating on that. I'm only thinking about probably the 10 of them that got killed, probably how many are left in the bush, what is the population where they went and killed this chimp. So it's all our focus is about how to go back, find these places, what we can do to make a difference there. That's all about it, because otherwise there's no future. I think we just need to make sure that we keep pushing our level. We need to push the barrier, again, the bar, more and more, and we see where, how, one of the reasons we did with this national animal thing, we had a very cunning plan, because we didn't have a very good law to protect all what we are preaching in terms of law enforcement, prosecution, putting people behind bars was not working. But now, after declaring the chimp as a national animal, it has given us a great opportunity to talk to the government. Look, it's not a matter of making a pronouncement. How do you protect your national animal? So that means you need to go back. You got to look at your laws. You have to make sure that you have to bring them up to a level where this animal can be protected. So at the moment, we are working with international partners and some volunteers helping, and we are trying to see how we can revise the laws. We are working with the law reforms in department as well. So hopefully by end of this year, we should have a law that is, more, will give us more power in terms of protecting the chimpanzees.
Well, I'm hoping, I'm really excited about all that in particular. And I'm hoping that, I think as a model, you look at what's happened in Rwanda with mountain gorillas and how the government of Rwanda has really created this atmosphere around the gorilla as a national animal. And even children far and wide across the country who have never had a chance to see the gorilla, they really love the gorilla. There is a huge sense of pride in it being the national animal. And certainly if that could happen in Sierra Leone with the chimpanzee, I think it would be a huge turning point in seeing people not poaching chimpanzees, but really going out of their way to protect them, protect the wild areas that are still left for chimpanzees, and developing a whole new culture. One of the questions that I saw just scroll up a minute ago was, is there a culture or a tradition around, protecting chimpanzees and caring for chimpanzees? And I think I'll let you address it, but I think that's something that has to be developed, and that's one of the things that I think is part of your focus there.
Yeah, definitely. The focus is right there. For us, I always tell people that we are doing lots of things that meet the eyes. The problem has been in terms of sharing that information widely. And this is why we wanted to partner with you, because I always told you that you come here, we can give you hundreds of stories of all what we are doing. But we have been very weak in terms of giving that story out, getting the attention of the people, what we are doing. Many, even recently, last week we were celebrating at camp. We finished our first corridor project. Remember, we took you there to Mabonda, where we did the forest corridor. Yeah, last week we celebrated. That project started 4 years ago. Last week we planted the last 12,000 trees, and we connected all the corridors. And it has never been happening anywhere in this region.
That's fantastic.
So little things like that. But imagine if you're in the right place, you got the right person to send that message out. Probably the whole world will know that we have done this. But this is one of our stories. Let's get buried here because we haven't got
Well,
the time because we've got another one to run after. Like we
yeah,
are
I
developing
mean,
an ecotourism circuit for this country. It's never been attempted. At the moment, we are working very hard on that. Hopefully, by beginning of next year, Tacugama will have its own ecotourism circuit where actually people could come through Tacugama and you get to visit 3-4 places and you spend 2-3 weeks in Sierra Leone. And this story needs to be told. It's happening. So this is why I think you guys need to come quick.
yeah, we'll get there as soon as we can. We I just want to say congratulations on finishing up that project and the tree planting. That's not a little thing. And if people want to get a sense of that project, that was one of the pieces that we did on our Apes Like Us channel. We have a video
Sure.
up there about that conservation project, and it'll give you a sense of the landscape and some of the things that they're doing. Bala, we have time for one last message from you about what you're doing and what you want people to know about Tacugama before we close off. Any last thought?
Well, the last thought is, yes, I mean, we want Sierra Leoneans to really own up this. I mean, this is not Bala and Tacugama. It's more about Sierra Leoneans taking to the next level. I mean, we want the government to get more engaged. And I think now we have declared the chimp as the national animal. I hope after this pandemic is gone, I think probably everyone will join hands. And for me, it's like, yes, Tacugama should be celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, but sadly we couldn't celebrate. But at the same time, I think the COVID has come to remind the humans that how much we are all connected and how much we need to take care of our environment. For me, I think it's more about spending the next years trying to preach the gospel and get more people to, join and probably pass the torch to some people who are really inspired enough to follow our footsteps. I think in our lifetime, it's not everything we're going to fix it, but I think at least we can try and fix it as long as we last. And that's what we are doing.
Yeah. Well, you're doing amazing work there, and I can't wait for us to get back there and do some more filming. So hopefully we can all stay safe and the COVID situation will settle down enough that we can get back there in the next half year or so and start doing some more filming. So Bala, thank you very, very much for taking the time to do this. I know it's crazy there and late in the evening.
The pleasure is all mine, and really, really happy to see you and talk to you again. I'm looking forward to having you back here. And I think, yeah, together we can send out a lot of important stories in the coming months and years.
Great.
I hope for.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Again, thanks everyone who followed us today on this live Instagram and patient enough to hang in there with us through the whole thing. I'm Jerry Ellis, and for everyone at Apes Like Us and GLOBIO, we thank you for being along on this live chat. And again, we'll have some pieces up on our Apes Like Us YouTube channel here quite soon. So we'll see you there. All right. Bye-bye.